Hello, my lovelies. I apologize for yesterday's technical difficulties, and so our monthly I See Me did not happen. And since that did not happen, I decided to record a lesson to post in the classroom for you guys. So this is the gift lesson. I guess it's not really a gift, it's a makeup for the missed April 10th I See Me class. And since we had technical difficulties and I was very frustrated, I decided that I wanted to do something fun instead of doing a page in our journal. Since we missed our time together, I figured we could do a fun project. These are cork coasters. I got them from Amazon because I do laser engraving and cutting, and I make coasters with my laser machine. And so I had these, and I figured we'll just make some mandala coasters today. They're already cut, they're already round, and because of their cork, when we paint the top and we use them on our table, the cork backing side, excuse my stuff, the cork backing side will be there to protect the table. So I thought this would be a fun little project for us to get into. Also, what we're going to be doing today, since they're round, is to make mandalas on them, dot mandalas. Now, there are a lot of tools out in the world to make a dot mandala, and they are great, and I have some of those tools, but I figured since this was off the cuff and no one was prepared, that I would make my mandala with things I had around the house. So you can make dot mandalas with things as simple as a Q-tip. So I'm going to use a Q-tip, and I have this wooden dowel. I make dolls, and I use the dowels inside. I crochet dolls, and I use the dowels inside of their necks so their heads aren't floppy. So I had this laying around the house, and I like sushi. We order a lot of takeout sushi, so I have these chopsticks laying around because they always send chopsticks, and I always save them because I'm like, I can use them for something. And I'll use these. It has a nice flat end on both sides, and because this side is tapered, this point is smaller than that point. So 3 size dots right here. Have a Q-tip. You can use Q-tips for dot mandalas. And I do clay work, and so I have these clay carving and shaping tools. I just happen to have them. A lot of people have these stili for whatever purposes you have them for. They are great for dot mandalas. And then I just have a paint rag to keep my tools clean. This is a chalk pencil. I also sew, so I always have to make chalk lines on my fabric because I do quilting. And so I have this chalk pencil laying around. So I'm going to use this to draw my outline. And that way I can just wipe it away or erase it away when I'm done. So just find some round things around the house. It could be a chapstick tube. I've used those before because they have the flat top and, you know, good for pressing down because it's flat. Top of a bottle, depending on how large you want your circle. Anything round and flat you can use around the house. You don't need special tools. The first thing I want to do, if you've never done dot mandalas before, you know, you might be a little nervous. So on a piece of scrap paper, I want you guys to do this. Just drop a little bit of paint, doesn't matter what color, and practice. Take your tool. You want to load it with plenty of ink, plenty of paint, and then it's a gentle press to make your dot. You don't want to mash because then you might wiggle, and then your circle, your dot won't be a dot. You can press it all the way down, you know, and this one isn't full because I didn't re-ink the tool. but you just have to be careful because you don't want the paint squishing out and misshaping the dots. If you use one of these styluses, same thing, load it well. And the other tip is a 90-degree angle. Don't go on the side even slightly. You want to go straight down. So you load your tool well and dot. Very simple. And if you want walking dots, you dot once and you just keep going, and they get progressively smaller as there's less and less paint on the tip. And remember to always wipe your tips off as soon as you finish using them, so the paint doesn't dry up on them. Now, if the paint dries up on them, you certainly can scrape it off. I mean, it's a metal tool, so you can scrape it off. But get in the habit of wiping them off every time. With the wooden dowels, I guess you could still scrape it off, but it just wouldn't be as smooth and flat anymore. So you really want to make sure that you wipe the paint off. For my Q-tip, what I do is I take a little bit of white paint. Let me move that so I don't make a mess. Whoops. Keep dropping the sucker. Take a little bit of white paint, but actually it can be any color. I just happen to always use white. I'll keep that out because I'll need it. And just mash it down into the Q-tip and press your point to kind of make it flat. And you're using the paint for two reasons. One, because as you see when I lifted my finger up off of it, the fuzzies came up with it. You don't want fuzzies in your mandala. And two, it helps to shape it and make it a flat point, flat part for you to make your dots. And then you can just set that to the side and let it dry. Two things we need to do, well, two things we need to do to get ready. I'm just going to fold that up because I'm prone to make a mess. Just a scrap piece of paper. First thing is we want to find the center of our coaster. So, scrap paper, regular pencil, and just trace around the coaster. This is a light pencil, so I've gone around it twice. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's only going to be used as a measuring tool, and then cut it out. And obviously doesn't have to be perfect, like I said, a perfect cutout, because we're just using it as a measuring tool. Cut it the best you can. Close enough is good enough, you know what I mean? Okay, so now we have our paper circle. Get some things off of this table. I'm working on a small table, so it's kind of hard sometimes. We have our small circle, same size as our coaster. What we want to do is fold it in half. And then fold it in half again. This will get us our center of our circle. Okay, so you fold it in half and fold it in half again. Now you want to take your scissors and snip off the very tip. You don't need to snip a big piece off, just a little tiny piece. And when we open it back up, voila, we have a hole in the center. So we take our little snip off of there. We place this on here. Now we know the center of our circle. But what this also does is, because we have folded in half, we have creases here and here. So now we also know where our 90-degree marks are. The easiest way to keep track of this is to take your scissors and make a little snip. Don't snip the line, just snip close to the line on either side. Now you have a little divot. Let me use my stylus. You have a little divot right there, a little point where your line is. So we'll do that on all 4 creases. And we don't have to be exact. Like I said, close enough is good enough. So now when we place our paper on there, we have these little points, and we know those are our 90-degree line markers. And we have our circle point. But before we start drawing any lines or anything, we need to prime our coasters. Our coasters are cork. They're very porous. If we try to dot on top of this, the paint will seep into the material of the coaster and it will spread. And the other reason that we need to paint our coaster, besides preventing the spread of the dots, is because I want to have a black background. So I'm going to paint it with just black gesso. If you don't have black gesso, you can use black acrylic paint. And so that will give me the background color I want, and it will also seal this cork so that the paint is not seeping into the cork material. But I need to get a piece of palette paper so that I don't make my table all painty. So we'll just be the responsible artists that we are and put down our palette paper. Like I said, I'm working on a small table today, so got to move things around to get things situated. Bring all my tools back to the top and hope they don't roll away off the table. Oops. That didn't roll. I flicked it off the table. Okay. So with my unorganized self, let's get started. This should be fun. A nice change of pace from what we've been doing. Just trying to grab a paintbrush. There is no rocket science to painting this black. Squirt some paint, spread it out with a brush. That is the rocket science behind this part of the process. And since I have the gesso out and black on my paintbrush, which I personally hate because it's just so hard, not hard to clean, but it takes a longer time to clean. But anyway, I'm just going to do black paint on all 4 coasters while I have it out. Makes sense. I will be right back with you in 1 moment. Okay, I'm back. sorry about the little pause. I had to take that phone call. You didn't miss anything. All I did was put black gesso on all 4 of my coasters, and I did the sides. It's a little messy on the back. Who cares? For me. But so just 1 layer, and I did the sides, and they've been sitting here drying while I was taking care of other things that I needed to take care of. And so now, since this is dry, well, it's pretty much dry. Still a little wet, as you see. I've got black gesso all over the place. But since this is dry, we can use the little paper template that that I cut out, I'm sorry. And we just line it up on the template and take our chalk marker. And we mark our center point, however you want to mark it. Is this chalk marker not working? Very light. Very light, but it'll do. It'll make it easier to wipe the marks away. And then where we cut out the notches, we also want to make a mark so that we know where our 90-degree lines are. Not that this is a math class and we need perfect 90-degree lines, but it's a start. Where they are. And I'm using a circle template. I could use my compass, but it has regular lead pencil in there, which will show up on the black, but I don't know how easy it'll be to get it off of the soft cork surface, so I'm skipping it. I'm all for ease. So the first thing I'm doing is taking one of the smaller circles and putting it where my center dot is. I have my template upside down. I guess it really doesn't matter. It's easy for me to do it this way. And I'm just centering the circle around that center dot. And I'm drawing a circle. You can see it's very light, but you don't need it dark. And then I'm going to see how big the next circle that I draw is going to be. I'm going to choose a size. And I think I like this one. And hopefully you can see the distance. Maybe I'll go up one more. But you can see the distance between where I drew that circle and where this template line will be. So you can choose how large of a circle you want to be your next circle. And, you know, that means a decision. Which, you know, in art can be kind of funky. Let's see, I can't decide. I think I like this one. So we're just going to go with it. So now we have 2 circles. And we just continue going around, deciding which size we want the next circle, and drawing the next circle. I'm saying to myself, why do these look like they're getting smaller? It's because you have your template upside down. Silly. I think I'm going to go with this one as my next one. Or should I do this one? Yeah, I'm going to bring it out some. We draw a circle. And again, I'm just checking each circle to see where I want to draw the next one. This will be my next. Hope I remember which ones I use for the next set of coasters. But if they aren't the same circles, as long as they're pretty much equal as we go out. There will be no worries. And this was not rocket science. Again, I could have used my compass to make sure everything was perfectly even, perfectly spaced apart. But this is a fun project. And so I'm going to have fun with it. Now if I use this last circle, it's going to be so close to this one I just drew, so I shall do what I said I was going to do and erase this white line. I really don't like that eraser that's on that pencil. Wipe off mess, and you can still see the line a little. And we don't want that interfering, so what we do is we cheat. Take a little bit of black gesso. That's far too much. And we get a small brush. That isn't too beat up. All my small brushes seem to be beat up. I'll just use this one. This will be okay. Just gonna scrub in a little bit of paint. You don't want a thick layer because you don't want that sticking out saying, oh, it's 2 layers right there. Just scrub it around and get rid of that mark that you don't want. Easy peasy. Easy peasy. Excuse me for reaching my water jars way out of the way because I didn't expect to be using paintbrushes today. Impatience here. Handy dandy dryer, so I'll use this one instead. This is the largest circle I have on this template. I have a second circle template, but I believe they are the same size circles. I'm going to grab it real quick. See how quick that was? Yeah, I think they're basically the same template. Just made by 2 different folks. So that's not going to give me a bigger circle. But I still want at least 1 more circle on there. That's when I start digging through my house and see what I can use to create this last circle. And the winner is my very empty jar of shea butter. That looks just about perfect, yes, I would say. Just hold it down, pour around it. There we go. Mo. Perfect. Now, we do not have to draw straight lines across this. That's why I left the 90-degree marks there, so it'll be easier to draw. We don't have to do that. If you want petals, it's easier to have those lines and those markings. But if you don't, if you just want to do a simple design like I'm going to do today, then we don't have to put them there. And I'm just measuring dot sizes and what I'm going to do. So, we can put our circle template away and make some space for ourselves. Get rid of the gesso. We're done with that for now. This is a Stay Wet palette. Because I don't know how much paint I'm going to use, and I hate wasting paint, especially because I use golden paints, and golden paints, if you don't know, are very expensive. I'm going to use my Stay Wet palette. And I think that I want to do an ombre with these. And what color ombre do I want to do today? Decisions. I have too many paint colors. That's part of the problem. I think I'm going to go with turquoise sallow. Let's see how we do with that. So let's set our coaster to the side for a moment while we prepare our palette. I'm just gonna move what I know I'm going to end up making a mess with. So let's get it out the way before I make a mess with it. Okay, so on your palette or paper plate, whatever you're going to use, squeeze out some of your color. And I'm also using titanium white so that I can get my different tints to make my ombre. So I'll put white over here in this corner. Of course, one of the colors of the ombre is the pure color out of the tube. But then we need to make some shades. Isn't this a beautiful color? I love this color. That was a side note. So we're going to mix in a little white. And I'm using a palette knife. And I might need more paint than this. So I'll mix up a bigger puddle of each color. Oh, my paper ripped. That isn't good. Okay, I'm not going to worry about it. We're just going to keep it moving. Technical difficulties yesterday and difficulties with paper today. It is what it is. I'm trying to be gentle because this paper is very thin. This is a new Stay Wet palette, the first time I've ever used this one. So I usually use the more well-known brand, Madison or something along that line. We can always make more paints if we need to. More colors. So we'll take some of this lighter color. Guess what we're going to do? We're going to add more white to that to make it even lighter. This is not working out for me very well. The Stay Wet palette paper is not great at all. I like the Stay Wet palette. Paper that came with it, it's a different story. I've never had Stay Wet palette paper rip on me. So we can see that this pile is just a bit lighter, especially if we finish mixing in the white, than that pile. But it's not, you can't tell the difference well enough. So I'm going to take some more white and add some more white. I want to be able to tell the difference in my tints when I get it on the mandala. So we just keep mixing in white until we're happy with the gradations. And we be very gentle with this particular paper because this paper is not good. Thank goodness when I bought these Stay Wet palettes, I also bought the regular palette paper. This paper comes with this particular palette brand. So that's why I'm using it, because it was in the package and I just opened up the package today. So you see how we mix that in, and now you can see a definite difference in tone between this one and that one, or shade, or however you want to call that, because you know, color theory, I understand it for myself. Will I ever teach it? Probably not. So we take some more of the pure color. Obviously we're going to take some more white. And we're going to make the next shade. Tone. Tint. Whatever it's called in color theory verbiage. I do not like this paper. I may end up stopping the video and starting all over again. Because this paper is, yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'll be right back, guys. I can't work with this paper. It's horrible. Stay Wet palette is nice, but the paper sucks. So I'll be right back with you. Alright, loves, I'm back. Sorry about that. That paper was horrid. It just was... Every little scrape ripped the paper. It was like tissue paper. And I can't do what I'm trying to do with paper like that. But enough of that. This must be my weekend for technical difficulties. As you see in my Stay Wet palette, I went from the pure color that was in the tube, and that little streak is just some white that got mixed in, no problem. And then I just continue adding more and more white to get different tints of this turquoise phthalo. Beautiful color. Beautiful color. So, from here, we will get to dotting. As soon as I clean up this mess that I just noticed. Okay. That's my OCD side, y'all. Alright, scoop that to the side and bring our little coaster back into view and take a deep breath, because we're going to start, and it will be okay. Trust me, it will be okay. The trick is loading your tool correctly and not mashing it down on the paper, and also coming down at a straight 90-degree angle, not off to the side in any way. So I'm going to bring this back over. And I know that I said I wanted to do an ombre from light to dark. And I'm about to put the darkest color in the middle. But you'll see why later. Why I do that later. And I'm bringing this, my Stay Wet palette, over so you can see how I load my tool. I put a lot of paint on there. It's like a dot, like it's going to drip off the edge. And then you simply, in the very center, dot. Don't mash it. Of course, I'm using a dark color on a dark background. So you can't see that dot now, can you? But let me bring it closer so you can see my dot. The trick is you don't want to mash it down. Very light pressure. Okay, so I just realized that the end of this, you see it? That's not going to make for a good dot. So before I put it on my work, I'm just going to dot off on here and make sure it's going to make a dot and it not be nasty because it's frame. I think it'll be okay. So on this first line, I'm just going to make a dot in the north and load again. Then I'll make a dot in the south. Load. East. Load. And west. Always loading in between. Then I can fit one dot in between each of them. And sometimes the dots touch, sometimes they're not perfect. It's okay. Then I clean my tool off. Just a dirty old rag. Wipe it off. And make sure you don't have any fuzzies. So here's the part about dot mandalas. You have to decide the pattern. And personally, I never know what I'm going to do. I enjoy seeing what happens. And that's exactly what I'm going to do here today. I'm going to see what happens. I think I'm going to end up with turquoise paint in my hair. Pretty color. Clean your tool. And your guidelines, remember, they're just there to help you keep kind of a circle. You're not necessarily looking to be right on the line when you do your dotting. You may want to be, but that wasn't my intent. So, did that one, trying to keep my colors in order. So now I'm going to go in between the two smaller dots that I made and make a dot. Remember, we're not mashing. See? Easy as that. And always load in between because you want your dots to be clear. And make sure they're full. You're trying to get them as close to the dots before that you put on before them without touching. And like I said, I'm doing this from things I had laying around the studio. I don't have any special tools. I mean, even though I do have special dot mandala applicators, sticks, whatever they're called. I'm not even sure what they're called. But I have them just because I like dot mandalas. And I'm not going to go hunting around my studio each and every time for things I can use. So now I have my biggest stylus. It has the biggest ball on the end. And it come bigger than this, but this is what I have. So I like to use what I have. And this time I am going to walk the dots. So I load up my stylus, make sure it's loaded well. I make a dot in the center. And then I just walk it around the edge. And it gets progressively smaller. Let me bring that closer so you can see it. Oops. Make sure you use the right color. Now, to do the other side of that walk, you start at the original dot, you dot there, and then you just walk it around. And take your time, there's no rush. We're not in a race here. Just hugging a curve. Dot in the original dots, and then off you go. Center, dot around the side. Hug the curve. Back in the center, and then hug the curve. Some people find this tedious. I find it amazingly relaxing. And as your mandala takes shape, you can start making some decisions about what you want to do with it. So glad my finger did not slide into that paint like it almost did. And this is also why I use my Stay Wet palette, because I make little dots. The paint that I mixed up will probably be far too much for what I need. So using the Stay Wet palette, I can put the top on it, and my paints will stay fresh. I will be able to come back to them over the next several days and use the same paint. Isn't that pretty? And it's so easy. So easy. It's not stressful. Just take your time. As you see, I'm running into places where the dots are very close together and they're touching each other. Oh well. I'm good with that. So now let's see. What size do I want to do now? I think I will go for my larger size again. And just build out that way. Go in between, close to, but not touching. '90-degree angle. Don't mash. You're just touching down. And today we're only doing simple dots, but there's so much more that we can do with these dots. But I'm going to let you get your feet wet first. I actually should have put that color next, but oh well, it's down there now. I believe there are no mistakes. Obviously, it was meant to be in this order, and not the order that I had in my hand. In my head. Just walking the dots around. Oops, starting at your original dot. Don't do like I almost did. See, you really don't need fancy, expensive tools. If you make dots too close together or too far away, that's okay. Nobody will ever notice. Unless it's somebody that is evaluating your work. They'll never pay attention. They'll look at the beautiful dots and the beautiful pattern. Someone evaluating your work will look for those things. But of course, if there's a reason for them to be evaluating your work, then your work will be exceptional, won't it? And making this little dot mandala coaster is a good way to practice dot mandalas. Small surface. If it doesn't work out, you've really lost nothing. I don't believe that you've lost or wasted time, because during this time period, if I wasn't yakking at you, you could be meditating and communing with the muse or the goddess or them both, the divine, your ancestors. That's turning out pretty good. I think that's pretty pretty, if I do say so myself. I am wanting, even though I said I was going to go from light to dark, this very light blue around that center dot. Well, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to continue doing what I was doing. So, my next dots will be the next darker color. And we'll see what we get. And again, I'm going between spaces. And I load and go between the spaces. Load again. I'm telling you, you can't get any easier, any simpler than this. Clean your tool. Clean, clean, clean. Clean, clean, clean. I'm back with my solids, and now I'm at the darkest color. And I don't know how well this phthalo turquoise is actually going to show up. On the black background. But it is what it is. It's what I started out with, and it's what I shall continue. Can't really see it. I mean, in person you can see it a lot better than I'm sure you can see it on camera. But it is pretty dark for the dark background. But there are tricks to that I will show you as soon as we finish dotting the mandala. Well, not as soon as, because the dots need to be dry. And this is one thing, one place where if you are not a patient person, you will learn to be. Because I suppose you could use your heat tool, excuse me, and dry these, but I think that would blow the paint around and make the dots look weird. So I always just set mine to the side and let them dry overnight. It should only take overnight. You're not using a lot of paint, really, in reality. And if you do like I just did, and hit the corner of the edge of your circle, it's okay. There are no dot police. And just take your time. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I started to put my tool down at an angle and realized it and corrected myself so that I could have a nice dot. Being at a 90-degree angle when you place your dot is very important. Oh, I made a boo-boo. I don't know how I did that. It's okay. Boo-boos happen. Okay, so now normally what I would do is bring the darkest color out, because this is supposed to be an ombre, which if I get it closer to you, you can see that really it is. It went from light to dark, and we're going to ignore the dark circle in the middle because I'm doing something special with that circle. It just needs to dry first. So ideally at this point I would put the darkest, the pure hue from the bottle, excuse me, in the spaces around. But because you just really can't see the beautiful color it is, I'm going to, since this color here is one step down from the darkest, I'm going to skip to this color as soon as I figure out which one it is, and I'm going to have that for my ending row, because I just think this dark pure hue, it's really not showing up. So why is it there? So I'm going to skip to this color, or the color that I think is this color. It's okay if I got the wrong color. I just know I don't want the dark hue on that last row because it's just not working out. Now here's the thing. Let me wipe off my tool so the paint doesn't dry on there since I already loaded it. Here's the thing. I want to put the dot here. So I can put one here, and I can put one here, and I can put one here, 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 here. Right here, not so much. Because I see what I did. Ha! I'm like trying to figure out why don't I have any space there to put it. This is just a silicone brush with a loose ferrule. It's because I put paint there, dots around dots that shouldn't have been there. I'm just going to scrape it off. There were no mistakes, remember? Scrape it off the best I can scrape it off. Get down to the little nitty gritties. And then what do you think I'm going to do next? You got it. I'm going to take a bit of black gesso and just touch that spot up so that I will have the space that I need. I was trying to figure out why it wasn't working out for me. Never know. So we get out our gesso and our small brush again. I love when I make mistakes on camera. I know people think that's crazy, but that's the way you guys learn. And I'm just brushing on a bit of black gesso to cover up the paint that shouldn't have been there. The paint color that shouldn't have been there. I'm going to swivel that so that side will dry while I'm going around with the rest of it. I really think what I'm going to do, I said that I was going to go for this color, but I want to bring some of this lightest color out to the edge. There's two ways I can do that. I think I'm going to do this lightest color as the big dots, because I can do the lightest color as the big dots with the next shade, the next tone, hue, whatever you call it, around. Or I could do this color and then put the light part around it. But I think that I want to do the lightest color as the large dots. I can't decide. I'm going to just do it. I decided. Too many decisions. Here's another one. Where is this going to go? It needs to go. If I look over here, it needs to go on top of this dot here. Can I tell you that I can't remember which one of these tints I used? I think it was this one. If not, we're going to have a new pattern going on here. Yes. Success in figuring out and that's the spot where we correct it. Oops. Now I can go either way with dots here. I can go lighter, or because that's a fairly light shade, excuse me, I could go darker. But I think because I want to bring some of that really light out of the center, I want to bring that color out. And we walk the dots. And because we're at the edge, it might be a little hairier. There may be some dots that are right on the edge that you can't get that first dot around. It's okay. Fake it till you make it. Dot on your palette paper. See how I put the dot on my palette paper? That's where it should be. So that way the rest of my dots will walk out properly. And then I'm just going to wipe it up so that I don't smear my coaster to it. Again, here's another one. It's off the edge, so dot on my palette paper. And I can still create the same walking dots. When you get to the edge, be careful. Don't do like I just did and put my finger in part of the design. Again, too close to the edge, so I'm using my palette paper as my edge dot. That would be there if this wasn't too close to the edge. We're real close to the edge. I keep sticking my fingers in the paint. That isn't good. So this one has a bit of an edge. A bit of space on the edge. So I'll use that bit of space. But I don't have to use my palette paper. And some people are real precise and put the exact same amount of dots around the circle, around each individual circle on both sides. I don't really care. I walk the dots until there is no more space. Sometimes I'm able to get an even number of dots, and sometimes I'm not. So now you see we have all this space that hasn't been touched. And we can do two things. We can leave it alone and let it be. Or we can do what I'm about to do, which is it's the same stylus that I started out with the biggest tip. But I'm using the other end that has the smallest tip. And I want somewhere in between this light and this dark to do some embellishments. So I think I'm going to take this color here, this tint here, and this time I'm going to walk the dots starting from the inside out. I don't know what's wrong with me today. I cannot remember what colors I'm using. I think it was this one. If it's the wrong color, that's fine. There is no dotting police, and it is the wrong color. How about that? There are no dotting police, though. They really aren't. No one's coming to get me. Now, I made a little mess of that because I can't decide which color I like better. I think I'm going to stick with the lighter color. But I'm dotting from the inside. I get to my center and I stop. inside and get to the center and stop. Not rocket science, gang. And this can be a very relaxing project. Just let your mind go. Let go of your worries. Call in the ancestors, the divine. And just have some quiet time with yourself. Not so quiet right now with me yakking. But you get the picture of what I'm trying to say. About how this can be a relaxing, healing, pampering time for you. Ouch. That was my wrist on the table. Not a good thing. Now you can keep going as long as you feel like going, or as long as you want to go. You can cover this whole thing in dots and have absolutely none of the black background showing. It's all up to you. It's your mandala, it's your coaster. Your art. For me, I think that I'm done. Now, let's move this out of the way for a minute. Because, you know, like I said, I'm messy. Bring it closer so you can see it. Ain't that pretty? And wasn't that simple? And it didn't take us very long. It's a little wonk in there, here and there, but who cares? The overall appearance of it is beautiful. Or at least it is in my eyes. I really love it. I could take more paint and make more dots in these spaces that don't have any dots. I could put just a simple ring around, but I think I'm going to leave it as is. Now there's two things, or a few things, or how many ever come out. The first thing is this dot in the center should be with the lightest color, but I put the darkest color on first. That's because I'm going to put, when this dries, I'm going to put a dot on top of that dark color that's just slightly smaller than that color, than that circle, so that you'll be able to see the dark color shining up around the lighter color. So that's why I put dark in the middle. The other thing I'm going to do once this fully dries is I'm going to protect my painting by covering it. Now you can use varnish or a sealer, but I'm going to use this clear tartar gel. And I'm not using it right now because the mandala is still wet. When I go to use the clear tartar gel to seal this painting and make it a proper coaster that won't get damaged, or at least the mandala won't get damaged by constantly using hot and cold cups. When I go to do that part with the clear tartar gel, I will record it and put it in the classroom so you can see that part of it too. But it's just going to, like I said, it's going to seal it and protect it, protect the paint. It also, obviously, will seal the cork. I just dragged my finger through my mandala. I don't see any mistakes. Thank goodness. But anyway, sorry. So it will seal it. It will also, because of what it is, because it's a tar gel, if there are any sort of raised spots, it'll kind of level it out. You don't want to set your cup on top of the mandala or the coaster and it wiggle because it's not level. And it's not level because, if you can see, these dots have some peaks. Now, they'll flatten out a lot as they dry, but there still may be a little bit of peaks in them. Once it's fully dry, that tar gel will make everything on an even level. It's completely clear. It also gives a nice glossy finish, which I like glossy stuff. So I'm going to lay that over. But before I lay over the clear tar gel, because once I put the sealer on there, it's sealed, I can't get to it. First I have to wait for this to dry fully. So it's going to be at least 24 hours. Then I'll take my eraser and I will erase these lines that you can still see. Any of the chalk lines that we drew that you can still see, I'll erase those first. I'll touch it up with black gesso if I have to, which I shouldn't have to. You know, I can even get in here to these lines that you can see in here, but I can't do that until the paint dries. So once the paint dries, I will erase the chalk lines, and then I'll do the layer of clear tar gel on top to give it protection, to level it off so your cups are not rocking on the dots, and just to make it pop and look nice. And as you see, I've also managed to get some paint on the edge, and I'll just touch that up. Once this whole thing dries fully, I'll just touch that up with black gesso before I seal it all. So, again, my apologies for today's technical difficulties. I'm so sorry about them, but things have been sorted out so that next month, even though I'll still have a new phone, I will at least be able to get on and we can have our session. We can have our normal online live stream next month. So I apologize. I hope that you enjoyed this little break away from art journaling, but it's still mixed media, it's still art, and it was so easy and fun to do. I can't wait for you all to please post your creations in our Facebook group. I think that people come to our group and they don't see much activity, and so they think that we're not active, and we're a very active group. I have many of you join me for the classes and offerings that I offer, and also once a month for I See Me. I have plenty of people joining me, so please, I just asked you to post your projects and your work inside of the classroom. There are no art police, nobody's judging you. We just want to witness you and encourage you, send you love for the artwork that you have shared with us. So please post your artwork, your mandalas, and if you don't have coasters, if you don't have anything round, by all means do this same thing in your art journal. Make a page. I'm about to, after I finish recording, I'm about to make a painting, a dot mandala painting on canvas. So it doesn't have to be on a coaster. This is what I happen to use because this is what I had. I wanted the project to be doable for you and not daunting, because if you've never made a dot mandala before, you might think it's difficult, or you might feel daunted. If I had a big 11 by 15 sheet of paper on my table ready to do a dot mandala with you. So I probably have been rambling on for 5 minutes now, so I'll shut up and say thank you for being here Again, I apologize for the technical difficulties. Next month we should not have any problems at all. And I hope to see your mandalas, whether you do them on a disc, a coaster, or in your journal, or on a piece of paper that's not even in a journal. However you do them, please post your creations. Thank you so much for being here. Love you to pieces. Thank you so much. Until next month.